Welcome to Roman Eats, your favorite late night cooking show. I'm going to be your host, Jeremiah, and by the ending of tonight's episode, you're going to know how to make this Roman dish called civilum. Now, if that dessert's making you say, wow, I've always wanted to learn how to make civilum, well, you've come to the right late night cooking show, so stick around. Now, I'm sure you're dying to get started in the kitchen, but before we go any further, we have to take a moment to learn a little bit about Roman food and dining. For example, what food do they eat? What time do they eat their food? Do they go out to eat? Were their food options any different from ours today? Well, you're going to learn all those answers and more in just a few minutes. So let's get started on learning about a brief history of Roman food and dining. Alright, so what were the main foods eaten by Romans? Well, food items were divided into two groups: frumentum, or the grain portion, and pulmentum, or the side accompaniments. Most dishes in Rome were made from grains, produce such as fruits and vegetables, meat, dairy, sauces, and spices. Wine and olive oil were also main components. Now, Romans had three primary meals, such as eintaculum, or breakfast, cena, which was a midday meal, and vesperna, which was a dinner meal. So let's get started with grains, because 70% of the daily calories consumed by Romans were in the form of grains, and they consumed it by eating cereals, legumes, and lower quality grains such as barley, millet, and oats. And legumes included lentils, chickpeas, garden pea, and also grass pea varieties. Pulse was a type of pottage and was a native food in Rome, and this was used in many religious ceremonies. The use of fruits and vegetables in Roman meals was very common because landowning and farming was considered and held in great value in Rome. Leafy greens, gourds, herbs, and leeks were vegetables that were commonly used in salads or were accompanied with sauces and bread. Fruit trees, such as the peach tree, citrus tree, and cherry trees, were planted, and Romans also ate additional fruits such as blackberries, dates, pomegranates, and plums. For meat and dairy, access to animal protein was based on a person's wealth. Butchers had cuts of pork, mutton, lamb, beef, or even fish. But according to Apicius, beef was in short supply, so pork was the most common type of meat. Animal blood was used in puddings and stews because Romans did not want to waste any part of the animal. Eggs were used, but poultry items were considered more expensive, so used less frequently. Milk was also used, but primarily obtained from goats, sheep, and cows, with cow milk seen as the lowest quality of the three. In Virgil's poem, Morentum, he stated that cheese was considered to be an essential meal for a farmer. So olive oil was a central component in Roman cooking. They had olive mills that were utilized to extract oil from olives in pretty large amounts. As you can see on the side here, this is a picture from the archaeological site of Volubilis, and this is an example of what an olive mill would have looked like. So Africa, Spain, and Italy all produced and exported olive oil, but Italian olive oil was considered to be superior. Lard, on the other hand, was used to prepare desserts, but butter was not very commonly used and or seen as a respectable part of Roman dining. So Romans utilized seasonings and sweeteners to add flavor to their meals. Pliny the Elder stated that salt is fundamental to a civilized society. But salt was expensive, so there were many alternatives that were used, such as garum, which was able to add salted flavor to meals. They utilized both locally grown spices such as garden herbs, cumin, and coriander, as well as imported spices such as saffron, cinnamon, and black pepper. Honey, syrup, and cane sugar were used to sweeten foods, as well as dried fruits were applied to dishes to add a sweetened flavor. So Roman food was produced in farms. Large farms could produce enough to feed cities, while small farms would be able to sell food at local Roman markets or food vendors. Roads and ship routes connected farms to these popular trade centers in the cities, and this food was transported by use of boats and mules. So how did socioeconomic class affect your dining options? Well, it had a pretty big effect. Wealthy Romans were able to access luxurious food items and hold banquets or large feasts. At these feasts, they could offer three-course meals, such as gustatio, which were the appetizers, prime mense, which was the main course, and secundae mense, which was dessert. Poor Romans, on the other hand, had limited access to rich proteins and were forced to eat foods such as chickpeas, lentils, and other legumes. Due to the lack of space, apartment living required the use of communal dining. Those with limited house space also had to make their food in communal ovens. If they prepared a dough at home, they could bake them at these local areas. If you did not have the ability to make your food at home, you could also partake in takeout or dine-in meals at local pubs and taverns. However, this was considered to be less respectable. Alright, and lastly, we'll go over the food item that we're going to make today, and that is civillum. So what is civillum? Well, it was mentioned by Cato the Elder in his essay called De Agricultura, which was written in about 160 BC. This text was primarily about Roman food, farming, and land management, but he does talk about many different recipes, and one of the recipes is for civillum. So as you can see on the right here, I've included a copy of the translated version of his recipe from his essay, but in summary, it's a sweet cheesecake that consists of a few main ingredients: flour, fresh cheese, honey, and an egg, and poppy seeds. So we will be making that shortly. Alright, and before we head back to the kitchen, here's a list of the bibliography which show the different sources I used in my research on Roman food and dining. Okay, let's start making civillum. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I'll show you the ingredients I have. They're going to be ricotta cheese, all-purpose flour, an egg, and honey and poppy seed. So the first thing I do is I take the ricotta cheese and I measure out about 3 cups of it. And I have this mixing bowl that I place it in. It's about a medium-sized mixing bowl. Then I will measure out approximately a cup of all-purpose flour, and I put that into the mixing bowl along with the ricotta cheese. Then I use 6 tablespoons of honey, and I measure each of those out and place them into the mixing bowl. Following that, I crack an egg, and I place that egg into the mixing bowl along with everything else. And then I mix it all together to make sure that it gets combined very well. This is what it looks like when it's combined and ready to be put into a pan. So I have a circular pan, and I spray it with some Pam or grease can work as well. And then I place the batter into the greased pan. And I also ensure that it is spread out evenly on the pan. The next thing I do is place the pan with the batter in it into the preheated oven. And I set the timer to 30 minutes. And this is what it looks like as it's in the middle of cooking. So after this, I will take some aluminum foil, take the pan out of the oven, and I will place some aluminum foil over the pan and cover it, ensuring that it's tightly sealed. And I will place the pan back into the oven, and this time I will leave it in the oven for approximately 10 minutes. And when that's done, I take it out and I uncover it, and it's looking really nice and browned on the edges. And now at this point, I will leave it to cool for a bit until it reaches a temperature where I can put some honey and poppy seeds on the top of it. And after I place the honey and poppy seeds on the top, I will let it sit for a bit. After I place the poppy seeds and honey on the top, I will place it into the oven for a bit to sit there in the warm oven. It's been turned off. After about 5 or 10 minutes, I'll take it out, and now it's done. And this is what it looks like as a finished product. This is finished civillum, and it is ready to cut and plate and eat. All right, so there we have it. We made civillum. Let's give it a try. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about Roman food and dining and making civillum. Well, I'll see you next time on Roman Eats.